My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the north. Stop. That man never existed. But the real general who inspired him? His story is infinitely more brutal. Year 166 AD. Rome is dying. Plague has killed 10 million people. The army is broken. And 200,000 barbarians just crossed the Danube, the biggest invasion in Roman history. They're not coming to conquer. They're coming to erase Rome from existence. On the throne, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor forced to become a warlord. He calls his best friend, his secret weapon, Marcus Nonius Macrinus. The mission: take 30,000 plague victims and stop 200,000 barbarians. Impossible, right? What happens next is the greatest military genius in history. A suicidal rescue mission through enemy territory. A 2-month retreat that was actually a trap. A final battle where 30,000 Romans slaughtered 200,000 invaders in a single day. In 2008 they found his tomb buried under Rome. The epitaph read, "Savior of Italy." Hollywood gave you Maximus, a fictional slave seeking revenge. History gives you Macrinus, a general who saved Western civilization. This is his story. The real gladiator. Let's begin. To understand the miracle, you need to understand the nightmare. Year 166 AD. Rome faces not one crisis but 3, all at once. Crisis 1, the Antonine Plague. It arrives with legions returning from Parthian War. Likely smallpox or measles, we'll never know for sure. What we do know, it kills between 5 to 10 million people across empire. That's roughly 10 to 20% of entire population. In some cities, mortality hits 30%. Bodies pile in streets. Not enough living to bury the dead. Economic collapse follows. Tax revenue plummets. Trade routes break down. The superpower is hemorrhaging. Crisis 2, the Marcomanni Wars. Germanic tribes beyond Danube have been watching. Waiting. For 200 years, Roman military superiority kept them divided, scared, submissive. But now, they see weakness. Bolomar, king of Marcomanni, does something unprecedented. He unites them. Marcomanni, Quadi, Sarmatians, Langobardi, Buri, tribes that spent centuries fighting each other, now march under one banner. Their goal isn't plunder. It's conquest. They want to replace Rome with their own civilization. Crisis 3, empty legions. Rome's military strength built on citizen soldiers and professional legions. But plague has devastated recruitment pool. Entire legions at 50% strength. Some cohorts have more officers than soldiers. The men who remain? Demoralized. Terrified. They've watched comrades die choking on their own blood. Now they're expected to face 200,000 screaming barbarians? Many desert. Others mutiny. The machine is breaking. Into this nightmare steps Marcus Aurelius, greatest philosopher emperor Rome ever had. Man who wrote Meditations. Who preached stoic virtue and inner peace. Now forced to become war leader. He knows he's not military genius. He's a thinker. So he does smartest thing possible. Delegates to someone who is. Marcus Nonius Macrinus. His childhood friend. His most trusted advisor. The man who will save the empire. Marcus Nonius Macrinus. His name doesn't resonate in popular culture. No movies about him. Yet his tomb, discovered by chance in 2008, tells story that eclipses any Hollywood script. Who was this man? He wasn't Hispanic farmer from Gladiator. He was aristocrat born in Brescia, northern Italy. One of richest, most influential families in empire. Not man forged in revenge but in duty. His career was methodical, brilliant ascent through Roman power structure. Quaestor, managing finances of empire praetor, dispensing justice consul, highest office of republic, now prestigious honor under empire, governor of Pannonia, one of most volatile provinces on Danube frontier. That last position was crucial. As governor of Pannonia, he knew the enemy, had studied their tactics, their mentality, their divisions, didn't see faceless horde, saw clans, loyalties, weaknesses he could exploit. His greatest weapon wasn't his sword, it was his mind. Macrinus was master of logistics, attrition, warfare psychology. He understood that wars aren't won with heroic charges, but with secure supply lines, precise intelligence, and breaking enemies' morale before first sword clashes. When Marcus Aurelius summoned him, it wasn't request. It was desperate plea. The emperor's title for him, comes Augustorum, companion of the emperors. His mission, do the impossible. Save Rome from 200,000 barbarians with army of ghosts. The army Marcus Nonius Macrinus inherits isn't army. Its open, festering wound. More than 30,000 men on paper. But plague has taken their strength. Fear has devoured their spirit. Their farmers, blacksmiths, citizens who now await death. Whether from fever-consuming lungs or barbarian axe lurking in forest. They know they're abandoned. No, Rome is far away. Know their sacrifice. Lesser leader would have given speech about glory, honor, duty to Rome. Macrinus knows those words are empty air to men who've forgotten taste of decent food. He knows soldier's soul isn't fed with promises, but with steel and bread. His solution wasn't inspiring speech. It was surgical cruelty. That same afternoon, he summons all cohorts. In front of thousands of silent legionaries, Macrinus stands on elevated platform. Doesn't raise voice. Speaks with icy calm that freezes more than Danube wind. Points to officers. Cowardice is plague faster than one running through your veins. It spreads with glance, with example. Its only cure is eradication. Message brutal and clear. Blue blood and political connections mean nothing on this frontier. Merit is only currency. Survival is only ideology. Terror of incompetence must be greater than terror of enemy. But fear is only tool. Once you have attention, must give reason to live. He becomes chief quartermaster, chief physician, chief engineer. Dives into basic logistics his aristocratic predecessors considered unworthy. Why? Because he understands fundamental truth. An army doesn't march on its glory. It marches on its stomach. Man who sleeps on dry straw, eats hot bread, drinks clean water, is man who can begin to believe tomorrow is possible. And man who believes in tomorrow can be convinced to fight for it. Now that he's tended to bodies, Macrinus must conquer minds. Needs to erase image of barbarian as invincible monster. Replace it with flesh and blood enemy who can bleed and die. For that, he resorts to oldest, most effective psychological warfare, hatred. Shows them fate of war that awaits if they fail. Fate of their own families, their own farms, their own cities. They no longer fight for abstract concept called Rome. They fight so that woman isn't their wife. So that child isn't their son. Danube frontier ceases being line on map. It becomes door to their own home. And they, army of ghosts, are now the bolt. The army is being reborn. Forged not in hope but in necessity. Not in glory but in shared fury. Their sharp, brutal tool. And now they await hand of their master. They don't have to wait long. A scout gallops into camp. Horse covered in foam. Vital outpost, Castellum of Asali, controlling strategic mountain pass. About to be overrun by force of 10,000 Marcomanni. It's beta test. Enemy wants to see if Rome's watchdog still has teeth. The report is hammer blow. 10,000 Marcomanni led by one of Balamar's lieutenants have surrounded Asali garrison. 500 Romans. 500 men against 10,000. Eagles against wolves. Legion commander, veteran named Tullus, has sworn to resist to last man. But his message clear. Without relief they'll fall before next new moon. To Macrinus counselors, it's necessary sacrifice. It's bait, says Servianus, voice ringing with cowardly logic. They want us to move bulk of legions toward mountain pass. They'll ambush us in narrow valleys where our numbers mean nothing. We'll lose fort, yes, but save the army. Save Italy. It's only logical move. Other officers nod in grim agreement. Logic of fear is always most seductive. It was obvious play. Sacrifice pawn to save king. And precisely because of that, Macrinus knew it was deadly trap. But not the one his general saw. Real trap wasn't in mountain pass. It was in minds of his own men. If he let Asali garrison die, every word he'd spoken, every reform he'd made would turn to ashes. Fear would return. Distrust would fester. Army he'd just rebuilt would crumble from within. We will not sacrifice anyone, he says. Silence intent becomes thick. And we will not march into their ambush. We will do what they don't expect, what they consider impossible. He leans over map. His finger traces route that makes other officers pale. It's not road. It's tortuous line through impenetrable forests, frozen swamps, mountain foothills. Barbarian hunting territory. His plan? Calculated madness. He'll leave main army in camp keeping up appearances. He'll take elite force. 2 cohorts of legionaries, toughest, fastest, Gallic auxiliary cavalry 3,000 men total. Mission, forced march of 80 kilometers in 36 hours. Without stopping. In total silence. To fall on enemy's rear like vengeful ghost. It's race against time. Bold bet that enemy arrogance will be their undoing. They march all night and all next day. Cold bites bones. Hunger gnaws stomachs. But they press on, driven by discipline running deeper than fear. Not discipline of centurion's whip, but faith in man at head. Macrinus doesn't ride horse in rear. He walks on foot in vanguard, sharing same misery as his men. He's shown them he values their lives. Now they trust him with theirs without hesitation. At Asali, hell has arrived. Marcomanni, certain no relief will come, launch final assault. Battering rams pound gates. Scaling ladders claw walls. For every warrior who falls, 2 more take his place. For Tullus' men, end is certainty. They don't fight for victory. Fight for dignified death. For taking as many enemies with them as possible. Main gate begins to splinter. At dusk on second day, Macrinus' force reaches destination. Exhausted. At limit of endurance. They behold spectacle from heights. Vast barbarian camp. Sea of tents and fires. Mass of warriors concentrated on crushing fort. Blind. Drunk on imminent victory. Macrinus turns to Cornicen, the trumpeter. No grand speech. Just 2-word order. Sound the charge. What happens next is masterclass in asymmetric warfare. Cavalry ignores mass of warriors. Falls upon rear. Swords cut tent ropes, collapsing shelters. Javelins fly toward command groups. But main weapon is fire. They create chaos. Terror. Turn enemy rear into funeral pyre. Warriors assaulting fort stop. Turn. Brains unable to process nightmare unfolding behind them. Where did they come from? How many are there? Deadliest doubt spreads through ranks. And in that precise moment of hesitation, second act begins. Behind fire and panic comes disciplined death. Macrinus' legionaries aren't horde. They're killing machine. Advance in perfect formation. Large shields overlap, creating impregnable wall. Disorganized barbarians charge in furious rushes. Crash against wall of wood and steel. Roman logic against Germanic fury. Logic is winning. On other side of wall, inside fort, sound of Roman horns is signal of resurrection. Tullus doesn't have to give order. His men, who minutes ago prepared to die, now roar with renewed strength. The 10th is here. The general has come. Its hammer and anvil executed perfectly in darkness and chaos. Marcomanni trapped. Attacked from front by relentless legionaries, harassed in rear by suicidal garrison, charge surrounded by circle of fire and ghostly riders. Battle becomes massacre. At dawn, silence returns to Valley of Asali. Thick, heavy silence broken only by moans of dying. Field is slaughterhouse. Thousands of barbarian bodies cover earth. Roman losses, minimal. Macrinus enters devastated fort. Tullus, exhausted, wounded, greets him with nod. They need no words. Silent respect of warriors. They've achieved impossible. But this victory, crushing as it is only beginning. He hasn't rescued fort. He struck wasp nest. News of Asali massacre will travel fast through frozen forests. To reach ears of King Balomar. Macrinus hasn't avoided war. He's declared one. And barbarian hordes' response won't be fear. It'll be apocalyptic fury. News travels and whispers through snow. An outpost destroyed. Force of 10,000 warriors annihilated. Not defeated, eradicated. On his improvised throne, Balomar, man who united enemy tribes for first time in century, understands truth instantly. This wasn't border skirmish. Not lucky defense. It was declaration. He doesn't see defeat of his lieutenant. He sees mind of man who orchestrated it. General who doesn't think like others. General who uses speed as weapon, deception as shield, brutality as message. Balomar doesn't feel fear. He feels respect. Respect of one predator for another. He knows name of ghost risen on frontier, Marcus Nonius Macrinus. And he knows this man must be crushed. Not with battle, but with tidal wave of force that erases his name in Rome from history. Balomar summons the great horde. It's not army heading for Danube. It's nation in motion. More than 200,000 warriors. And behind them, their families. Their wagons. Their cattle. They don't come to plunder. They come to stay. They come to replace Roman civilization with new order born of fire and steel. They've burned their own villages. No retreat possible. Victory or total annihilation. Macrinus scouts return with reports that chill blood. He cannot face them in open field. It would be suicide. He cannot hide behind walls. Horde would simply pass by, leaving his legions isolated and surrounded to die of hunger. He needs new plan. Plan so vast, so risky, so contrary to all Roman military doctrine. that his own men will believe he's gone mad. His decision is incomprehensible. He orders generalized retreat. Not retreat, calculated cession of territory. Frontier forts for which Romans have bled for centuries must be abandoned. Cities must be evacuated. Land itself must become weapon. If they want this province, he writes to Emperor, we will give it to them, and make every step they take in it a drink of poison. Its defense in depth carried to most brutal extreme. Macrinus is stretching Horde supply lines, forcing it deeper into hostile, empty territory, shifting battlefield from frontier to entrails of empire, letting hunger, disease, winter become his invisible legions. He's sacrificing land to save people, luring monster into trap from which it cannot escape. To soldiers executing order, it seems defeat. To advancing barbarians, it seems easy victory. But to Macrinus, it's opening move in greatest chess game in history. He's abandoned board to build new one where he controls all pieces. The great hunt has begun. Question is, who is hunter and who is prey? For weeks, Macrinus' strategy unfolds in brutal silence. To Balomar and his people, beginning is celebration. They take fort after fort, city after city. Find them empty. They laugh at Roman cowardice. Great army of Caesar flees before us. They feel invincible, heirs of empire that's crumbling. But celebration turns to ashes in their mouths. Literally. Water is contaminated. Food has been burned. Cattle they brought begin dying, unable to graze on poisoned land. Victory feels hollow. Every kilometer they advance south, deeper into heart of Roman territory, doesn't make them stronger, makes them weaker. Empire doesn't fight them. It's devouring them. This is true genius of Macrinus' plan. He doesn't attack Balomar's army. He attacks its cohesion. Warrior can march for days on empty stomach driven by promise of glory. But he cannot ignore crying of his hungry child. Macrinus' war isn't against men with axes. It's against families that follow them. Psychological warfare waged with hunger as main weapon. For legionaries, it's torture. Every day they march south with backs to enemy. They hear barbarian war horns behind them, constant reminder of apparent flight. Discipline forged in victory at Asali tested to limit. Why are they fleeing? Why yielding land their fathers fought for? It's duel of wills on continental scale. Balomar, desperate, tries to force battle. Launches best warriors and lightning attacks trying to stop Roman retreat. Force them to fight. But Macrinus' rearguard is lethal beast. Absorbs blow. Inflicts disproportionate damage. Then vanishes. Continuing march south. Drawing Horde deeper and deeper into trap. Modern parallel. This is exactly what Ukraine did in 2022. When Russia invaded with overwhelming force. Ukraine didn't try to hold every city in conventional battle. They traded space for time. Let Russian supply lines stretch. Hit logistics. Ambushed columns. Disappeared. Made Russians pay for every kilometer. Macrinus invented this 1,800 years earlier. After nearly 2 months of retreat, Macrinus scouts find what he's been seeking. Not fortress. Natural cage. Valley near city of Aquileia. Wide enough for Horde to enter. But with flanks so steep their overwhelming numerical superiority would be useless. River would break their advance. Shatter their charge. This is the place. The end of the chessboard. Order echoes through ranks. Halt. Turn. Dig. Legionaries' confusion transforms into electrifying revelation. They weren't fleeing. They were choosing. All the suffering. All humiliation of retreat had purpose. And now they see it. They build. Ditches ramparts field of sharpened stakes. Roman army in trenches. Dog that flees has turned, and now shows fangs. Trap is ready. Bait has been bitten. Wounded, desperate Horde faces disciplined, prepared army. Everything has come down to this. A valley. A river. One day. Future of Roman Empire won't be decided in Senate. But here, in this carefully prepared slaughterhouse by Marcus Nonius Macrinus. The valley is perfect killing ground. Macrinus has spent 2 months engineering this moment. Not through speeches or heroics, but through understanding terrain, logistics, human psychology. The setup. Romans hold high ground on one side of valley. Behind them, river at their backs, seeming disadvantage, actually security. In front, killing field. 3 layers of defenses. Layer 1 the spike field. Thousands of sharpened wooden stakes planted at angles. Hidden in tall grass. First barbarian charge will impale themselves before reaching Roman lines. Layer 2 the ditch. Deep trench filled with obstacles. Forces attackers to slow down, bunch up, become easy targets. Layer 3, the rampart. Elevated position where legionaries stand. Height advantage. Shield wall. Javelins raining down. But that's just defensive setup. Real genius is offensive trap. Hidden in hills on both flanks. 2 forces of several thousand men each. Cavalry and light infantry. Completely invisible to Horde approaching valley. Waiting. When Horde commits to frontal assault, these forces will charge downhill. Not against battlefront. Against flanks and rear. Classic hammer and anvil. But executed on scale never seen before. It's canny. It's Elysia. It's every great encirclement in history. And Balomar, desperate, starving, furious, is about to walk straight into it. Dawn breaks. Silence before storm. 200,000 barbarians face 30,000 Romans across valley. Balomar invokes his gods. His ancestors. Reminds warriors of children's hunger. Weeks of suffering in desert Romans created. Points to line of shields. Behind that wall is everything. Food. Land. Revenge. Take it. Deafening roar. Sound of 200,000 throats answers his call. Sound of hunger about to be unleashed. Macrinus doesn't speak of glory or gods. Speaks of realities. Look at them. They're hungry. Desperate. They'll fight like cornered wolves. But they're not soldiers. They're mob. You are legion. Trust steel in your hands. Trust man beside you. Trust this ditch you dug. Make them pay in blood for every step they take. Remember Asali. Show them why world fears Rome. No roar in response. Only sound of thousand shields struck rhythmically. Heartbeat. War drum. The charge begins. 200,000 warriors surge forward like avalanche. Ground trembles. Dust rises. War cries shake valley. Its most terrifying sight any Roman has seen. Ocean of humanity crashing toward them. But Macrinus' trap begins working immediately. First wave, the stakes. Front runners hit spike field at full speed. Impaled. Screaming. Those who follow trip over dying comrades. Charge breaks before reaching Roman lines. Second wave, the ditch. Survivors stumble into trench. Break ankles. Fall. Bunched up. Easy targets. From Roman ramparts, hell unleashes. Pila heavy javelins, fly in coordinated volleys. Each javelin designed to punch through shields, pin them together, make them useless. Slingers hurl lead bullets that crack skulls. Archers fire in high arcs, raining death from above. It's massacre at distance before single sword crosses. Third wave the wall. Finally, barbarians reach Roman rampart. Begin climbing. Hand-to-hand combat begins. This is what legionaries trained for. From elevated position, they have every advantage. Stab down at exposed heads and shoulders. Use shields to push attackers back into ditch. Rotate fresh men to front while exhausted fall back. It's brutal, methodical slaughter. 4 hours, Horde crashes against wall. 4 hours, wall holds. Balomar, from rear, watches with growing despair. Sees his army's strength bleeding against Roman defenses. Sees he's losing. Been outmaneuvered. And in that moment, Macrinus plays final card. Signal given. From hills on both flanks, 2 Roman forces charge downhill. Several thousand men each. Fresh. Rested. Furious. They don't attack battlefront. They attack flanks and completely exposed rear of Horde. Panic, any general's nightmare, erupts. Trapped from front. From rear. From flanks. Horde ceases being army. Becomes terrified, trapped crowd. Balomar, seeing his life's work collapsing, makes desperate decision. Personal charge. He'll kill Macrinus himself. Behead Roman army. Kill architect of his destruction. Gathers his best warriors, his personal guard, and charges toward Roman center. Where Macrinus' banner flies. His charge is heroic. Unstoppable. Breaks through secondary lines. But finally crashes against shield wall of Praetorian Guard. Fight is savage but brief. Balomar, king who united tribes, dies at foot of his nemesis standard. Pierced by dozen disciplined spears. With their king dead, barbarian will collapses. Those who can flee. Those who cannot die. By sunset, valley is graveyard. Bodies stacked so high in some places they block passage. River runs red for days. Final count. Barbarian dead, 80,000 plus barbarian captured. 40,000 plus Roman casualties, 4,000. It's not battle. It's extermination. And it's exactly what Macrinus planned. News of victory reaches Rome like lightning. City that had been preparing for siege, fortifying walls, hoarding food, erupts in celebration. Marcus Aurelius, stoic philosopher who'd been forced into war, can finally breathe. Empire is safe. When Macrinus returns to Rome, he's received as hero, savior of empire. Marcus Aurelius showers him with honors. Triumph, rare military parade through Rome, consulship, second time, vast estates, personal friendship of emperor. Their bond lasts until Marcus Aurelius' death in 180 AD. But here's where history gets murky. After Marcus Aurelius dies, his son Commodus takes throne. Yes, that Commodus, the one from Gladiator. And while movie shows him as pure villain, reality was complicated. Commodus was unstable, paranoid, eventually insane. But in early years of reign, Macrinus served him loyally. Because that's who Macrinus was, servant of Rome, not of individuals. He didn't care if emperor was philosopher or madman. His duty was to empire. When Macrinus died, likely in late 180s AD, he was buried with honors. His epitaph, discovered in 2008, reads, Marcus Nonius Macrinus, consul, commander of legions, intimate friend of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, savior of Italy. That last title, savior of Italy, wasn't honorary. It was literal truth. Without Macrinus' genius at that valley, 200,000 barbarians would have poured into Italian heartland. Rome might have fallen 200 years earlier than it did. Western civilization as we know it might never have existed. No Renaissance, no Enlightenment, no modern world. All because one man understood. Wars aren't won with heroics. They're won with logistics, patience, and making enemy fight on your terms. So why don't we know Marcus Nonius Macrinus? Why did Hollywood invent Maximus instead? Because Macrinus' story doesn't fit neat revenge narrative. He wasn't betrayed by emperor. Marcus Aurelius was his best friend. He didn't lose family to treachery. He was wealthy aristocrat who died peacefully. He didn't fight in Colosseum. He was general who commanded legions. His story isn't about personal vendetta. It's about duty. And apparently, duty doesn't sell movie tickets like revenge does. But here's the thing. The real story is better. Because Maximus' revenge, even if it had been real, only mattered to him. Macrinus' victory mattered to world. One man's grief versus civilization's survival. Which is more epic? Let's compare. Gladiator's Maximus. Fictional character motivated by personal loss fights for revenge, kills emperor in arena, dies. Real Macrinus. Actual historical figure motivated by duty to empire, fights to save Western civilization, defeats 200,000 invaders with 30,000 men, lives to old age, dies peacefully. Maximus is compelling character. But Macrinus is proof that sometimes, reality surpasses fiction. Modern lessons from Macrinus. Lesson 1. Logistics beats heroics. Macrinus didn't win through personal combat skill. He won by controlling supplies, terrain, information. Modern military still follows this principle. Lesson 2. Retreat can be strategy. 2-month retreat that drew barbarians into trap? That's what Ukraine did against Russia in 2022. That's what Wellington did against Napoleon in Portugal. Trading space for time is legitimate strategy. Lesson 3. Psychology matters more than steel. Macrinus' greatest victories weren't on battlefield. They were in minds. Rebuilding broken armies, morale, making enemy overconfident, creating panic at crucial moments. Wars fought in heads before fought with swords. Lesson 4. Duty over glory. Macrinus could have sought personal fame. Could have challenged Commodus when he went insane. Instead, he served Rome. Regardless of who wore purple. That kind of integrity is rare. The real legacy. In 2008, construction workers in Rome accidentally discovered ancient tomb. Inside, sarcophagus with inscription. Marcus Nonius Macrinus. And here's the beautiful irony. That discovery came just 8 years after Gladiator's release. While millions knew fictional Maximus, almost nobody knew real hero who inspired him. Until that tomb was opened. Until archaeologists read that epitaph. Until historians said, wait, this is the guy Ridley Scott based Maximus on. The man Hollywood forgot was literally buried under Rome, waiting 1,800 years to remind us. The truth is always more epic than fiction. Marcus Nonius Macrinus wasn't Gladiator. He was general who saved Western civilization from apocalypse. With broken army. Against impossible odds. Through genius, discipline, and understanding that sometimes, to save everything you love, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything you have. That's not Hollywood heroism. That's real heroism. And it's time we remembered his name.